It begins with a single phone, held tight in two hands, in a line that snakes out the door of a sneaker store in Bonifacio Global City. It's late morning, July 13th, 2026. Nobody in that line quite knows what they are about to witness. They've been told this is a Nike event, a conversation, something called Beyond the Court. A young woman near the front whispers what everyone else is thinking. She is terrified to meet the person walking through that door. Now hold that image, because 12 hours later, in a different room entirely, the same fear is about to repeat itself, except this time, it belongs to the person everyone came to see. That evening, inside the ceremonial hall of Malacañang Palace, the president of the Philippines sits at the head of a long table. A 21-year-old walks in. Her ranking, published that very morning, reads number 28 in the world, a career high. And in a few minutes, she will stand in front of the most powerful man in her country and admit, out loud, that she is nervous too. 2 rooms, one Monday, and the woman standing at the center of both of them is Alexandra Eala. To understand why an entire nation compressed this much emotion into a single day, you have to rewind 9 days to a tennis court 6,000 miles away. July 4th, 2026. Wimbledon. Center court. Eala, seeded 29th, playing only her 3rd ever main draw match at the tournament, steps onto the grass across from Iga Świątek, a 6-time Grand Slam champion, the defending title holder, one of the most dominant players of her generation. Nobody outside the Philippines is watching this match expecting history. And then it happens. Set by set, point by point, Eala dismantles her. She wins. She becomes the first Filipino singles player in the Open era to reach the round of 16 at a Grand Slam. It is, by any measure, a seismic upset. She loses her next match, in 3 tight sets, to Jasmine Paolini. And then she gets on a plane and flies home. But here's the part almost nobody talks about. The moment her plane touched down, the story was no longer really about tennis. It became about something else entirely. Because a country doesn't just celebrate a scoreline. It celebrates what that scoreline reveals about a person. And what the Philippines was about to discover was that the real story wasn't the win over Swiatek at all. It was what happened in 2 rooms on one single day, 9 days later. So picture the morning again. Nike fort, glass doors, a line of strangers. Eala walks in wearing a white shirt stitched with Filipino design. And yes, people notice her socks, her style, the small human details that turn an athlete into someone relatable. But underneath the surface, this event is structured like nothing the fans expected. It isn't autographs. It's a masterclass. She talks about pressure, about the version of herself as a little girl who dreamed of exactly this moment, and admits, almost disbelieving, that living it feels even better than she imagined. That's the morning. Warm, human, contained. Now the tension shifts, because the evening is a different animal entirely. Malacañang Palace. Dinner in the ceremonial hall. Family in the room. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. rises first, and something in his words lands differently than anyone expected. He doesn't open by praising her ranking. He doesn't mention the upset over Swiatek. Instead, he tells her that what makes him proudest isn't her success at all. It's the grace with which she has carried that success. Let that sink in for a second, because that single sentence rewrites the entire occasion. This isn't a celebration of a result. It's a celebration of character. A nation is not applauding a ranking sheet. It's applauding a person. And then, the room shifts again. Eala stands to respond. And what she says next is almost unthinkable for an elite athlete. She confesses that she rarely gets nervous speaking in public. But tonight, she is the exception. Tonight, she is genuinely, visibly nervous. Think about the weight of that admission. 9 days earlier, this woman walked onto the most famous tennis court on earth and defeated a legend without a flicker of fear. And now, in a dining hall in Manila, in front of people who love her, she is more nervous than she was facing down a Grand Slam champion. Then comes the line that quietly breaks the room open. She tells the president that hearing his words makes her feel truly seen, that all the invisible hours, the ones that never make it onto television, finally feel acknowledged. Every professional athlete carries those invisible hours. The early mornings, the recovery sessions, the repetition nobody claps for. Almost none of them ever get to stand in front of the leader of their country and say those hours mattered. On this Monday, she did. And then, because the moment still isn't finished, she switches languages. She speaks in Tagalog, telling the room that this victory belongs to everyone, that it is theirs, together. She says she carries immense pride in being Filipino, that she carries the flag wherever she goes, and that she will keep representing her country in the best way she possibly can. That's the sentence that turns a news cycle into a memory. Now step back, because none of this happens in a vacuum. The palace didn't manufacture this moment out of nowhere. It was reacting to something the entire international press had already decided. ESPN, Sky Sports, The Athletic, all of them treated her Wimbledon run as a genuine shock to the tennis world, a career suddenly exploding into global consciousness. When the biggest voices in the sport all reached the same conclusion in the same weekend, governments notice. The palace ceremony was possible because center court made her impossible to ignore. And here's the detail that makes this moment even more remarkable. The Philippines has celebrated athletes before. Manny Pacquiao, Hidalgo Diaz after Olympic gold. But what happened on July 13th was different. A private brand event in the morning. A state reception that same night. Another public appearance already scheduled 2 days later. It wasn't just a celebration. It was a nation trying to keep pace with a career accelerating faster than anyone could plan for. Because underneath the ceremony sits a harder truth. This entire day of celebration is built around a match she did not win. She lost that round of 16. The palace wasn't honoring a trophy. It was honoring a threshold, proof that she now belongs among the game's elite. And thresholds demand what comes next. In less than 2 weeks, she returns to competition at the Mubadala DC Open in Washington, stepping onto a court against players like Naomi, Osaka, and Venus Williams. No grace period. No gentle return. Because here's the real question underneath everything that happened that Monday. Not whether she could win a tennis match, but whether she could stand in front of an entire nation, in the brightest possible spotlight, and answer for all of them without flinching. She answered twice. Once in English, once in Tagalog, and both times, unmistakably, she said yes.